It's August 1st, and that means the 2024 comprehensive team rankings have been finalized. I'm Adam Friedman, the rankings director and transfer portal analyst for Rivals.com. The comprehensive team rankings include elements of the high school team recruiting rankings and the transfer rankings. It counts the 25 highest rated players, whether they're high school prospects or transfer prospects. You can find the full breakdown on Rivals.com. Right now, I'm joined by Scott Reed of DuckSportsAuthority.com to break down Oregon's number 4 class in the comprehensive team rankings. Scott, Oregon's done a fantastic job recruiting under Dan Lanning the last few years. In the 2024 class, they finished with the number 6 team in the high school rankings, and then the number 14 class in the transfer rankings. I want to start with the transfer rankings though, because what they did was awfully impressive. They got the number 1 receiver in the transfer rankings, Evan Stewart, who was a 5-star transfer from Texas A&M, and then 2 quarterbacks, the 2 of the very best ones in the transfer portal, and Dante Moore and Dylan Gabriel, both of them top 15 prospects overall. And then they've got a slew of defensive backs and defensive linemen as well. I think 4 top 100 defensive backs, an awfully impressive effort there. What's the general feel in the Oregon program about these new players coming into the program?
Obviously, the biggest feel was you had to have a quarterback to replace Bo Nix, and I think everybody that I've talked to, and we had media day today again with the team, 44 different players, all of them talked a lot about Dylan Gabriel and what he brings to the team. And it's more than just what he's able to do on the field. He's a little bit different than Bo. The joke that one player told me is he's shorter, but everything else is the same. But, the feel is that they brought in the right transfers for the right positions. Dan Lanning said that not a single starter transferred out last year, but Oregon lost a few starters to the draft and other places, and they had some holes to fill. You don't always have a quarterback ready to come up. And the biggest thing that, everybody's excited about is 2 quarterbacks at once that are the 2 of the top quarterbacks in the portal. That means you don't only have this year covered, you have next year and the year after potentially covered with Dante Moore, who was very humble in understanding his flaws that he had a year ago and what he needed to work on and where he's at this year and what he thinks he still has to work on as far as getting better on the field and, taking care of the ball.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating decision by Dante Moore, really mature decision. What have you been able to talk to him about his desire to get a chance to learn in a new system and mature up there in Oregon behind Dylan Gabriel, or is he just really kind of chomping at the bit and almost challenging for playing time this year?
I think he knows that he's gonna be the backup this year, and I think he knows that, and he was prepared for that reality. But he also thinks they're going to get plenty of playing time for him this year. So get a chance to play where the stress isn't there, and you get a chance to understand the playbook better. Make sure you're taking care of the ball. The thing he said he's learned the most this offseason is it's okay to check down. You don't have to be the hero every time and make that throw downfield, trying to make the big play. Sometimes the check down is the big play because you avoided a turnover. And that's a huge change for him. You come out of high school, you play and start as a true freshman, and mistakes are going to be made. And that was the other part. He said he spent a lot of time talking to Peyton Manning at the Manning Academy about you're going to make mistakes, and it's how you bounce back from those mistakes that really are going to define you. So I think he's really matured and understands his role this year and is just trying to prepare.
Okay, very good. And well, he's not going to have to check down a whole lot with guys like Evan Stewart to throw to on the outside. All right, him or Gabriel. I mean, Evan Stewart can take the top off of defenses almost as good, if not better, than any receiver in the country. He's got elite speed. How has Evan Stewart done fitting into this offense and just getting used to the playbook and how things run at Oregon?
He's fitting in really well. I think one of the things he said today that really surprised him. Dylan Gabriel did this thing with the offensive where he called it dime time. It was a camp that he takes everybody to, and it's time for fellowship and getting to know each other. And Evan said, I've never had anybody do anything like that before. That was unique to have a guy paid for the camp. It's not like Oregon paid for it. Dylan paid for this out of his pocket to take these guys out there and kind of develop that camaraderie that makes you stronger as a team if you know something about them outside of what they do on the football field. He's loving it here in Eugene, and I think he's really looking forward to playing with Dylan and in this offense. I think he's pretty excited.
Sounds good. Well, another question about the transfer portal additions. I mean, they've done a great job getting defensive backs in this class, really reloaded in that area. Four of them in the top 100 of the transfer rankings: Jabbar Muhammad, Cam Alexander, Kobe Savage, and Peyton Woodyard coming over. So what have you seen from these guys now that they're on campus?
So there's a rule on Peyton Woodyard. We're not allowed to talk to him yet. Dan Lanning has a no true freshman rule. We don't get to speak to them. They don't come to any conferences. But I can tell you that, we talked to Jabbar today, and he said it was weird when he got to his first practice and he looked up and he was in green. He's from Washington. That's a rival, and that was pretty weird for him. But he's pretty excited. And he thinks that, this team is as physical and as good as any of the team he played on last year. He said they're just as physical, just as good, and capable of just as much defensively. And he's really happy about kind of what's around him. And it's not just that those four guys came in. There's a lot of good talent that was still on the roster that makes this team better. And Jabbar is going to be one of those guys that everybody looks up to because he's really good on the field.
Well, switching over to the high school team rankings, this number 6 class that they brought in is really outstanding. Some really, really good players, some late additions too that were just massive additions, we should say. Gatlin Blair, one of the fastest players in the country at receiver. Jeremiah McClellan was a big addition on signing day, coming out of Missouri. Dylan Williams, a linebacker from California. Aaron Flowers, a defensive back from Texas. These guys are kind of instant impact type of players, right? When you look at this class as a whole, what need do you think they did the best job at addressing? We'll say.
I'm going to say defensive backfield. Some of the guys they pulled in, and wide receiver, but that's a separate thing. Defensive backfield, pulling in Ife Obadegwu and Aaron Flowers. Both of those guys look like I got two different people talked about them as people they're already noticing as true freshmen in practice. So those are guys that I think are going to step up and be really good. And I think going to get a lot of playing time this year. And so that area, and then wide receivers, when you're adding the wide receivers that Oregon added to an already pretty decent wide receiver room, what it took was a wide receiver room that had 3 good starters to a wide receiver room that was too deep across the board. So now you're talking 6 good receivers instead of 3. And that makes it a tough team to defend, because even if somebody has to take a play off, it's not like you're taking a downturn when you go from, say, Evan Stewart to Trayshawn Holden. Yeah, Trayshawn's maybe not as fast as Evan, but it's not like this big drop in talent and capability at the position. And then linebackers, they added 3, and I thought they did a good job with Dylan Williams, Braden Platt, and spacing on the third one. Those 3.
Yeah, Methudi.
Methudi, yes, thank you. Those 3 were a really good add at the time, and I think Dylan Williams is the one. I saw him at the Polynesian Bowl, and he's one that might get a lot of playing time this year. He's not going to start, obviously, but I think he's going to work his way into the field. He's just too special at everything he does to knock it on the field.
Well, they've also did a really good job addressing the trenches. And when they're in the Pac-12, the thing that you always heard about Oregon was just how much bigger they were in the trenches than everybody. Now that they're in the Big Ten, maybe not bigger than everybody, maybe fitting in there, but already having a really good foundation there in the trenches. Trent Ferguson, Devin Brooks, Jaquan McRoy was one of the very biggest offensive linemen in the entire country last year. And then on the defensive line, Tian Gray, Zadavian Sims, Aiden Breland, Jericho Johnson, all of those guys 4 stars or better, ranked in the Rivals 250. So a lot to look forward there for the Oregon Ducks. Quick recap. I wanted to make sure that everybody understands just how great a job Oregon did in the 2024 recruiting cycle. Number 6 in the high school team recruiting rankings with 22 4 stars or better. That's an average of 3.8 stars per prospect, and 14 in the transfer portal team rankings. That's 3.75 stars per commit, a 5-star, 8 4 stars, and 2 3 stars. Scott, thank you so much for your time breaking down Oregon's number 4 class in the comprehensive team rankings. Make sure you guys give Scott a follow and check out all of his content on DuckSportsAuthority.com. I'm Rankings Director and Transfer Portal Analyst Adam Friedman. Please subscribe to the Rivals.com YouTube channel and follow all of the Rivals social media accounts. And of course, you can find all of our content on Rivals.com.